Good afternoon. Thank you for being here this afternoon. I am Hank Weber, and I am the great pleasure of serving as the chairman of the board of the Cortex Innovation Community Board of Directors. My day job, I'm the executive vice chancellor at Washington University. I'm delighted to be joined this afternoon by Mayor Lyda Krewson, Cortex President and CEO Dennis Lauer, Bruce Katz, a nationally recognized expert on innovation districts. Cortex was founded in 2002 with an idea to leverage the enormous talent from the area's institutions and commercial medical and bioscience technologies. Today, Cortex supports technology development in all industry sectors. The founders, Washington University in St. Louis University, the University of Missouri St. Louis, BJC Healthcare, and the Missouri Botanical Garden saw the potential in this 200-acre area that in 2002 was vacant buildings, empty lots, and worn public infrastructure. Together, these institutions made a $29 million commitment and leveraged investments from others to build a community of technology entrepreneurs and innovation companies here in the heart of the city of St. Louis. Cortex is a success story, as you'll hear from Dennis in a few minutes. And the report that all of you have available to you is an analysis that shows that success. But it's a success based on a theme, and that theme is cooperation. It shows what happens when a city, a state, universities, a medical center, and institutions can come together on a common purpose. In 2013, Cortex had 1,000 jobs. Today, there are 6,000 jobs in the district. That is 5,000 new employees in the heart of our city. That's worth celebrating. And we're going to add more in the future. The city of St. Louis has been, without a doubt, our most important partner. The city provided tax abatement for early development, and in 2014, the city approved a tax increment financing. This provided Cortex with the ability to encourage investment in buildings and infrastructure. We have been judicious and careful in our use of the TIF. In the very beginning, when the market was not established, we needed support for some of the earlier develops. There is little to no tax support for the buildings and projects that are going on. The market has been established, and now we are returning large funds to essential public services. Mayor Krewson, first as an alderwoman, now as mayor, you have been a great supporter of Cortex. You, along with 17th Ward Alderman Joe Rohde, in whose ward we are located, and SLDC Director Otis Williams, have been the most important friends, supporters, and colleagues of Cortex. Much of our success is done due to the contributions that the three of you have made. Thank you, Mayor, for your unwavering support over the years. Thank you, Otis, for your unwavering support. And although he's not here today, thank you to Joe. Please join, Mayor, could you join us and add a few words?
Good afternoon. This is one of the really fun things you get to do as mayor, and that is to celebrate such a great project. It's great to be here in the Cortex Innovation District, one of our city's newest and most exciting neighborhoods, and continues to amaze and inspire all of us year after year. Hank said a lot of the statistics, but they are so good, they do bear repeating. 6,000 people a day come to work in Cortex. That is a lot of folks who bring a lot of energy, who bring a lot of innovation to the Cortex Innovation District. There's so much to be proud of here, and still so much more room to grow, which is incredible considering how much progress has been made so far in this tech hub. Hank mentioned that I was the 28th Ward Alderman, which is just a few blocks from here, for a while. And I remember what this property looked like in 2002. In fact, at one time I toured one of the buildings here for a former employer who we wanted to use it for warehouse space. We clearly were not thinking as big as the folks that envisioned the Cortex Innovation District. At that time, the area was tired, industrial, vacant buildings, empty lots, and worn-out public infrastructure. The Cortex that we have here today was just a dream. I didn't know the dream at that time, but I know that the founders of Cortex, some of whom are here in this room, did know the dream, and I also know that Alderman Joe Rohde knew the dream, because I've spoken with him about this many times, and I'm sorry that the alderman is not here today, because he deserves a lot of the credit for what is here. He carried the water, if you will, with the city for a dream that not everyone could see. 20 years later, Cortex, 200-acre innovation hub that proudly houses 420 companies and, as we've said, 6,000 employees, providing millions of dollars in new net tax revenue to the city of St. Louis and the other taxing districts. So I know that your efforts and investments are greatly appreciated by all of those taxing districts and by the folks who live in the city of St. Louis. Cortex Innovation District has single-handedly helped transform and advance our regional economy. This is about much more than the city of St. Louis. This is about the regional, the state, and even the national economy. It's attracting, of course, millions of dollars in entrepreneurial investment. It's setting the bar nationally and globally for best practices in urban innovation districts, which, let's face it, that's where we all want to be today. So all of this while also ensuring the momentum and the development is rooted in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Cortex is leading the way there, and we will all continue to lead the way on diversity, equity, and inclusion, because it is so important. Not just is it the right thing to do, it's good economics. So many strengths here. I'm very excited to see what's on the horizon for Cortex, and I believe there is more on the horizon for Cortex. That will be more projects, more developments, more innovation in the pipeline that will provide more jobs and more momentum to the robust economy that we're building right here in St. Louis. So on behalf of the city of St. Louis, I want to thank everyone here who has played a part in this district. And I also want to say that you are our most important partner. We are so proud to be able to stand here with you today and celebrate this great district. Thank you for all that you do, and we look forward to more great innovation in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So much talk about partnership, I'm a little worried about what my wife would say, but the other partner. Dennis, I'd like to turn it over now to Dennis Lauer, our president and CEO. Much of the achievements of Cortex in its history, certainly in the last, it's under his leadership in the last 10 years. Dennis?
Thank you, Hank, and thank you everybody who's here today. You know, the mayor just a moment ago talked about dreams. And, you know, there are two kinds of dreams. There are wonderful dreams and there are nightmares, okay? And at the time that the founders started out with this dream, you know, we weren't sure how it was going to turn out. Was it going to turn out as a nightmare? Was it going to turn out for all that we hoped it would be? And I think that today we can say that it's more than we hoped it would be, and it's not enough, and we have more to do. So we're going to take a moment to reflect back on what's happened here and look forward possibly on what might happen. But like the entrepreneurs that we serve, these 5 founders got out over their skis. They had a vision, they had a dream, they had ideas of where they wanted to take this. And so they risked, and when you risk, sometimes you fail. But fortunately, what we share with you today is a little bit more than a nightmare or a failure. So we're looking back now on 18 years of efforts to develop an urban innovation district here in St. Louis. A district to lead the region into a 21st century technology economy. So it's important to understand that growing a regional innovation hub takes 30 to 40 years, and that's what we're doing. Cortex is a place, but it's part of a region. It's part of this whole large corridor that stretches from the Mississippi and even on the east side all the way out to St. Charles County and north and south as well. And it takes 30 to 40 years to grow these things. So we're, you know, at this point, we're just a little past teenage years. We're young adults. We've come a long way. We have a long way to go. But at the time that we launched on this journey, the term Urban Innovation District had not yet been invented. We were still calling them science parks, which are business parks that focus on technology companies. The difference between a science park and an urban innovation district is vertical and horizontal. In business parks, the relationships are pretty much vertical within the buildings. People stay in the buildings, they come, stay in the buildings, and leave at the end of the day. But in innovation districts, it's all horizontal. It's all interaction. It's multi-tenant buildings. It's people bumping into each other. It's people coming up with new ideas and helping other companies solve their problems. So that's the difference, and that's what we've launched on, and that's what Cortex is, the Cortex Innovation Community. And also at the time that we launched this, as Hank indicated, we were focused primarily on life sciences to complement the Danforth Plant Science Center, which was focusing on ag tech. So ag tech in the county, out next to Monsanto, now Bayer, and in the city next to WashU, BJC, and St. Louis University, we were focused on life sciences. So the phenomenon of urban innovation districts emerged about 10 years ago with the idea of creating mixed-use communities and entrepreneurial startup businesses, not just trying to recruit large established companies like traditional science parks typically do. In particular, the fundamental idea of creating Cortex was to commercialize the research from the founding institutions, academic institutions, to grow a regional economy that would compete nationally and internationally. And we've made some remarkable progress over the last 18 years, and I want to share briefly a few of those data points and a few of those milestones. So today we've evolved, as Hank indicated, into a multi-tech sector innovation district of over 420 companies that include life science, ag tech, IT, cyber, finance, and geospatial technology companies. We built 19 buildings in 18 years, which is pretty good, you know, one a year, a little better than one a year. Several more underway soon. And in the last 5 years, we generated $40.7 million of new tax revenue for the city and the state and the taxing jurisdiction. And I'm happy to say that in the last 5 years, we generated $7 million of new taxes alone for the St. Louis public school system. Today, as indicated, we are home to 6,000 direct jobs here in the district. When you add the indirect and the induced employment, that takes us to over 13,000 jobs that have been generated as a result of the activity here in Cortex. Annually, the direct wages earned by these district employees is approximately $350 million, the benefit of which is spread throughout the region with a lot of buying power. Annually, the direct output of our companies is over $1 billion and $2 billion when you add the indirect and the induced output as well. We got there to this place by taking a decision about 8 years ago or so to put a number of innovation centers and activators on the ground here in Cortex, all within a block of each other, all focused on different technologies with different programming, different programs that could support these companies. So we have 12 of those today. We have 2 more that are in planning: the Global Center for Cybersecurity at Cortex and the Geospatial Center at Cortex. And we have sponsored or co-sponsored 13 diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, as well as having committed over $1 million in the next decade to these and other to-be-determined initiatives. So we've come a long way in the last 18 years, but that success has not been without challenges. I won't enumerate all of them, not to include my wonderful chairperson. But I will identify 2 that we have to deal with today. One is to keep our district affordable. The price of success is that our rent per square foot now in the district has climbed to close to Clayton prices. And places like the biogenerator and like CIC, they are homes to our startup companies, 1-person, 5-person, 20-person, 30-person companies. And when they get traction and grow and have to graduate, step-up space that's affordable is a challenge. Our next building will go out somewhere close to $29 triple net a square foot, and that's what we're seeing in Clayton these days. So affordability is now something that the board of directors is really focused on, trying to find places to keep these companies to grow with us, because it's their energy, it's their entrepreneurial energy that really has gotten us to the place that we are today. In the last 4 years, it's been these startups and the creativity of these startups and the buzz that they've created that has resulted in over 20 established corporate tech companies now moving into the district. And they're moving in to follow these entrepreneurial startup companies. They want to be close to that energy. They want to interact. As a matter of fact, if you walk down the hall afterwards, you'll see a staircase that goes down to the first floor. And that staircase is right across from the previous Boeing space that was there, and Boeing Ventures when they came in. And the conditions for them to come into Cortex was that we would put a staircase outside their door to come to the second floor so that their employees could experience the startup energy here on this second floor. That CIC, the CIC companies were here. They didn't put a kitchen downstairs. They required their employees walk up those stairs, interact, play some ping pong, and get some coffee up here. So that's the spirit of what the innovation community is all about. We call those serendipitous collisions. Thank you, Travis. And that's what we try to foster, those horizontal relationships. So keeping the district affordable is really key. And the second challenge now that we face is parking. Every day, it's an everyday topic here. We need to build parking because we don't have any more building pads that don't have surface parking on. So if we want to continue to put up buildings, to bring in companies, we have to now build structured parking garages. So some of the challenges to go with those successes, but those are ones which we can live with and which we will overcome. You will find at the back, for any of you that are interested, you'll find a brochure that includes an infographic that has a lot more details about these milestones that we've achieved, and also a summary, an 8-page summary of the larger taxonomy report, which you can find online. And you can read it if you want to go to sleep some night and fall asleep quickly. As economists do, there's a lot of minutia there, but if you're into that, you can find it online. So a lot to look forward to in the future, but we've accomplished a lot up to this point, and I want to introduce Bruce Katz now to share with you a national and international perspective of the importance of innovation districts and communities and the future of the economy, not just here in Cortex or in the region, but nationally and internationally. Bruce is an international expert on the creation and importance of innovation districts. He is currently the director of the NOAC Metro Finance Lab at Drexel University in Philadelphia and co-founder of New Localism Advisors, helping cities find new growth, governance, and financial models to solve very difficult urban challenges of today. Bruce also spent 22 years at Brookings Institution, where he focused on metropolitan challenges and global urbanization. And for the last decade, Bruce has been a leader in studying and promoting urban innovation districts as a new economic development model. So welcome, Bruce Katz.
So it's great to be here. This is an incredible celebration. There is a new spatial geography of innovation in the world, and Cortex exemplifies it. We track, through a global institute on innovation districts, about 100 districts from around the world, and you're in the top 5. So if you go to Berlin, if you go to Tel Aviv, if you go to Amsterdam, if you go to Copenhagen, if you go to Helsinki, if you go to Buenos Aires, if you go to Santiago, and you say St. Louis, they go Cortex, right? You're known. You're known to these hubs because what sets you apart from so many other places in the world is this collaboration that has happened across the public sector, private, civic, university, in most parts of the world, including in the United States. These institutions sit in their own fiefdoms. They talk about collaboration, but it's very hard to do. Here, you've been doing it for quite some time, and it's a 2 + 2 = 5 effect. And you've seen it really over the past 19 years. The relationship with the city, the mayor, Otis Williams, this is catalytic. Your city put in substantial investment, primarily through tax increment financing, at a time when the market was not ready. And now it has taken off. And it is the kind of smart subsidy that a public sector can provide, and really a local government, usually authorized by the state, can enable. So this is really important. And other cities in the U.S., I was in a city, I'll leave it nameless, but they had St. Louis envy because of what you've done with your TIF financing around Cortex, and they were trying to figure out how do we do that. This is early days, okay? You've heard about a lot of success, and you've heard about the build out of this sector. But if you look at this regional economy, you've already been named by Brookings Institution, my former employer, as really 20 growth centers in the United States that has the potential to take off in a relatively short period of time because of Cortex, because of T-Rex, because of Danforth Plant Science and 39 North, because of Umstel, right? You've got this network of nodes here in St. Louis. So if it's EdTech, FinTech, AgTech, HealthTech, MedTech, Infotech, AirTech, MapTech, TradeTech, TechTech, you've got it, right? I mean, you've got an incredible region here with mature companies, startups, scale-ups, incubators, accelerators, investors that are homegrown and are tapping national and global capital. You now have nodes for all these different institutions and the universities and hospitals to come together and create technologies and products and processes that are going to drive this economy and, frankly, other economies around the United States and the world forward. And the last thing I'll say is because it's St. Louis, the conversation about how you do this has equity and inclusion at the center of it. you talk about not just growing jobs, but hiring local, growing black-owned businesses, growing community wealth in ways that many other parts of the U.S. or outside of the U.S., it hasn't really entered their lexicon, or if it has, it's not particularly real. So today is a celebration of what you've achieved to date, but you've created a platform for innovative and inclusive growth going forward. This is a very important moment in St. Louis's history. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. So the bottom line is we've done a lot. 6,000 jobs, $40 million in net new tax revenue in the last 5 years. 60 million will come in the next. Very good performance on diversity inclusion. But as I told someone today at lunch, it's like we got very good grades in the second year of college. That's good. When your kids get very good grades in the second year of college, you say, that's great. But we got a long way to go. In this district, we want to go to 15,000 jobs. That's our goal. We're a little under halfway there. And we'd like to have a broader and a deeper regional impact. Cortex success is inexplicably tied to the success of the innovation community in St. Louis. What's good for 39 North is good for Cortex. What's good for T-Rex is good for Cortex and many others. And what's good for Cortex is good for them as well.